What's going on, everybody? I'm Brock Foose. I'm going to show you around the shop today. We got some brand new updates, new info, and some other general information about our shop for those of you that have never been down here before. Starting with our address marker right behind me. My dad had this belly tanker sitting around the shop and he wanted to do something with it, so went ahead and took it out, gave it some custom graphics, and left this natural patina to it, all this rust, of course. And as you can see on the side there, it says Sampson Brothers as a reference to the street, Sampson Lane, and the numbers 17811, which is, you guessed it, our address. Let's hope it never comes down off that wall. Anyway, come on, I got some more to show you. And over here, this is our assembly side. This is where all the magic happens after all the metal and paint work have been done. So most of what you see going on over here is wiring and some mechanical work. Our mastermind PD spends all of his hours over here, and we love him. We don't know what we'd do without him. Right now, he's working with Roger, our shop manager, on this C10 build. This is a personal project of my father's. As you can see in the back here, as far as body work goes, he got some really wide tires for this thing, so he wanted to widen the rear tubs, the rear fenders for this one, and he had a couple of these tubs sitting around, and he chopped them in half, Frankensteined them together, and made them nice and wide. Gives it more of that frame that he was going for, and as you can see, they fit very well in the bed back here. Up front, they're working on a bunch of the wiring over here. They're hoping to have this up and running by next week. But there was some weird wiring layout issues happening here. I was watching PD and Dad kind of go back and forth about that and work everything out. Over here, we're really excited about this one. This is our client Ron Lund's 56 Bel Air project. As you can see, most of the body and paint work have been completely finished on this. PD just got the trimmings back on very recently, and it's been totally soundproofed with all of our Dynamat, as you can see in there. And there's a bunch of looks like we're still deciding on what color we want to do with the interior with all these swatches. I imagine they're going to go with one of these lighter cream colors like this first one here. That's really sticking out to me personally. It's kind of close to that cream color here. We might go with something custom. Talk to our guy Alfredo about that. And then over here, this was originally built at our shop. This is Bob Briggs 36 Custom. It was like a midnight blue originally. When the fenders were removed, you could see the frame a lot better and you could see the original color of the car. You can kind of tell by the header covers on this Roush engine here. You can see that blue. It was a little bit more subtle than that, but it was sent back to us from Bob, and we were informed that he wanted it black. So now it's black, and it's really mean. And Dad wants to throw on, you can see this mock-up back here, this Photoshop mock-up of how we want this to look when it's done with these kind of bronze rims on it. Personally, I want to see them in silver, but we'll go back and forth about that. And over here, I have never actually seen a 55 DeSoto until this one was brought to the shop. This was a resto mod project. Originally, Dad was a big fan of the natural patina on this, the rust that had developed over the years. Somewhere along the way, he decided that he wanted to recreate this kind of salmon color that is the original color that this car came in. And he recreated it with our paint master, Steve, and threw it on. And now it's looking brand new, straight out of the factory. It's got a brand new frame on it, brand new engine, drivetrain, everything, suspension, completely brand new, meant to feel like a modern car in this gorgeous vintage shell. And it's coming along very nicely. And then over here in this corner, this is where the real magic happens. This is where all the design work is formed, where it comes to life. Chip spends many hours back here every single day. Looks like we got some exclusive stuff going on over here, some sketches for some new rims we will be coming out with. I'd show you, but I'm not allowed to. So over here, we have this print of a sketch that Dad whipped up for our good buddy Gary Sinise. If you're unfamiliar, we built this 2021 Bronco. By built, I mean basically gave it a makeover. We gave it this brand new paint job and put this awesome livery on there with some insignias in different classes and badges from military branches on this back window. And it was auctioned off at Mecum Auto Auctions, and all the proceeds went to the Gary Sinise Foundation for wounded veterans. And it was a really fun project, and I believe we'll have another one coming up very soon with the success of that one. And then over here is something really interesting. You'll see this wrapped up pretty soon here. This was a quick sketch with some marker thrown in there. This is for another good friend of ours, Mr. Doug Coletta. He just won a championship last year in the NHRA, and they reached out to Chip and asked him if he could paint his helmet for him for this upcoming season. So that's happening over there as we speak, and seeing this sketch side by side with the finished product is really, really cool. It came out so nice, and honestly, we're just honored to be involved with them, and it's super cool. We've painted a few cars for them in the past, and although we didn't paint the car for this season, we at least got to paint the helmet for them, so that's very exciting and cool. So back there on the wall, you can see you've got these two pretty great condition Schwinn Stingrays with the price tag still hanging off them. You can see from here. Still got all the original features listed here. My dad's a huge fan of bike collecting, and I remember him taking me to bike shops as a kid and getting me into the Schwinn Stingray myself, and we built one together, which is my custom bike. I still have it. It's one of my pride and joys. It's beautiful. So he's kind of passed on that love to me as well. So over here on this rack, we have this super rare bicycle frame. I'm not sure exactly what bicycle this is, but I've never seen a frame like this before, and I'm really excited to see what my dad ends up doing with this. It's got this nice natural patina to it, but I imagine that's going to go away very soon. But moving on from that, I bet you've noticed, if you've ever come down to Foose Design, this great condition vintage Rolls-Royce grill up there. When my dad was 12 years old, he was working with his dad at Project Design, and I'm sure you're familiar with his 56 F100 that was on the Overlord episode on Overhauling. When he was 12 years old, he was driving that truck to his father's shop. He was learning how to drive for the first time. And as he was trying to put the truck in reverse, his foot slipped off of the brake, hit the gas pedal, threw the truck in reverse, smashed into that Rolls-Royce grill, which then subsequently threw back into a Porsche that was sitting behind the Rolls-Royce. I wish I could say that I've made a mistake that expensive since I've been here, but unfortunately I have not yet, so I can only imagine how my dad felt at 12 years old. Hopefully Grandpa was forgiving. Let's cross our fingers on that one. But it's a beautiful reminder that even the best of us make mistakes, and we like to hold it here above our heads as a beautiful reminder of that. So over here, our very good friends over at MagnaFlow just sent us a couple of goodies. Some catback systems, which we've got some really exciting videos coming up about these. We have got some cars sitting around that are in desperate need of some brand new beautiful MagnaFlow exhaust kits, and we'll have a few videos coming up on installation tutorials and what kind of system you'll need for your cars, depending on what you have, etc. It's going to be really cool. Looking forward to it. And then here's our most beautiful car, the most beautiful vehicle at Foose Design. She's a good old girl, our Toyota forklift. More loyal than anything else we've had in this shop in the past 30 years, give or take. This one's never changed. Still runs great. We love her. So over here, this is our paint side. Now, we were just looking at that sketch of Mr. Doug Coletta's helmet, and this is it here in all of its glory. Still needs to be clear coated. It was just recently sanded, so it doesn't have quite that nice shiny finish that we're used to right now. But give that a few hours and it will have it after we pass it off to our good buddy Mitch down the street. Anyways, So much to talk about in here. It's crazy. The history in this building is so much that it's hard to comprehend, honestly. For starters, on our wall over here, we have this banner from the 2005 Riddler Award, which Ken Reister's impression won. Now, I was 5 years old when the impression was finished, but I can say now, after almost 20 years, that that is still to this day one of the most impressive custom vehicles I've ever had the pleasure of spending a lot of time around. I think it's really impressive that Ken is able to basically whip that thing around still, like it's kind of a normal vehicle. He's just so used to it by now. And it's still in damn near perfect condition. We love that car. It was built from the ground up in that building and this building. This was all before that building over there was even ours. So it kind of set the tone for, or set the bar, I guess, for the Foose standard. But what we have going on here currently is a little bit different. Over here you can see there's a bunch of spray masks sitting around because we've been working with a good friend of ours, Mr. Camilo Pardo, livery designer, and we've been mocking up all of these different segments of this livery for him. So we've got a few prints sitting around which we were able to mock up on the car using our industrial printer over there. We can get it all to scale so we can see exactly what we'll be cutting and painting onto the car. Speaking of which, let's go check out with our paint master, Steve, here in the paint booth and see what's going on. Start putting the wave graphic on the back here soon.
Yeah, I'll do that here pretty soon.
He's got the spray masks up here. I'll show you guys. So this is what I do at the shop. I'm kind of the tech nerd around here. So I've taught myself how to use the plot cutter over the last year or so. And with the help of Camilo, I was able to get all the graphics that he made for this Mustang. There's the full rendering on the wall over there if you want to see kind of what it was going to look like. After it was brought here, Chip had some design input. So some of the stripes have been moved around, but for the most part, that's essentially what our goal is right there. So this piece, let me see, is this the right one? We need this one. So this is going to fit in here just like that. And I'm very excited to see what it'll look like when it's done, because on the front here you can see that the door panel has its wave graphic already laid out here. So all of these stripes are going to be black. Here you have the 60. It's hard to tell right now because it's all masked up, but that's been painted. All the stripes have been painted on, and all that's left aside from those wave graphics is just doing some of the lettering and word graphics that Camilo has implemented into that final rendering there. We have our 34 Ford project. Here we have the deck lid for the 55 DeSoto, which we'll touch on later. Still in body and paint work, obviously. The main issue that I'm aware of is up here. On these old butterfly style hoods, it's really hard getting these lines and gaps perfect. So you can see in the front here, there's still a lot of unevenness if you'll come around to the front of the car here, if you're able to. You can see that this right side has this gap that's a lot bigger than the left side right now. So until we can't really get this in paint until we have this issue resolved. So for now, that's where the focus is getting those hood gaps perfect, because again, these butterfly hoods are just so lovely to work with. So if you look up, you can see another very small portion of my father's bike collection. A lot of Schwinn Stingrays hanging from up there, some old mountain bikes, likely from his youth. You got a custom bike back there you can see on the far left up there in the back corner. That's a custom painted Foose bike that was done here. I'm not sure what year it was done, but you can tell those tires were custom ordered, and it's got the signature Foose flames going down the side with the little logo on the front. Super cool. We really ought to get these bikes down. They're getting a lot of dust up there. They need a little bit of a cleaning. A very good friend of my father's, also happens to be my godfather, is a comedian, Christopher Titus. He had this drag race, he had this funny car body built for an episode of his show, and it was custom painted here. And when the episode was over, he went ahead and gifted it to us, so it could be our problem. So we hung it from the ceiling, and it's been here forever, many decades, and it's a really cool little Easter egg for anybody that does know about the Titus show. Yeah, it's a cool little detail. And then on the wall over here, you may recognize that hood. It's been a few years, but that was from Jeff Gordon's custom Foose NASCAR that used to race on the circuit. Obviously, it's been retired since then, but we got to keep the hood, which was really, really cool. You can see it's signed. It's kind of withered away over the years, but still got that. This 56 Lincoln project has been here for the last 2 years, give or take. The windshield's been dropped 2 inches. These headlights were completely reshaped by my dad. You can see they come off on this really nice bubbly finish now, whereas before it was kind of this harsh 90-degree angle, and all of the curvature was kind of trusted to the front chrome trimmings here that would wrap the headlights. But we opted instead to make it more of a nice curved finish with a beautiful silhouette as it wraps around the front here. A lot of gap issues with this car because this was obviously built a while ago. You can see all of these discolored areas here. These are all actually lead that was melted into the uneven areas of the body. And back then, I guess they didn't believe in things like Bondo, so they used lead. And we've been trying to figure out solutions on how we can fill those gaps ourselves. We still haven't quite figured out what we're gonna do yet. We could just use like a simple gap filler like we're used to, like Bondo, or we may even try to outsource that lead material and see if we're able to, use that to fill the gaps that were kind of created when we did our best to melt all of that lead out of the body. It left it kind of warped, so still searching for a solution there. If the lead's legal, we'll probably consult that, but for now, we're still figuring it out. So over here, we have our 62 Corvette project. This was in fiberglass work for a very long time. This car has been here for several years now. Ran into some speed bumps along the way, but we finally got it back out, and we're getting ready to get this into the paint booth pretty soon here, because most of the bodywork's been done. It's all primed. It's even masked off at this point, so it's just a matter of time. Once we can get that GT500 out of there, we'll throw this right on in and give it that beautiful custom blue paint job using some materials from our good buddies over at BASF. Get that all wrapped up, get the trimmings on, and throw that chassis underneath it, which is currently sitting in our showroom over in the assembly side. As you're probably familiar, Foose Design really prides itself on doing things the old-fashioned way, coach work. So we have a lot of these arguably vintage tools here for metal shaping. A lot of big scary ones too, like that hammer over there. Dad's using this thing all the time. It's the loudest thing on earth. It's not annoying at all, and I love it so much. It's amazing. But yeah, nothing too fancy over here. No plasma cutters yet. No water cutters, nothing like that. Everything's done by hand. Bandsaws, hammers, rollers, the works. I mean, look at this. You gotta love an old anvil. Classic. Not heavy at all, light as a feather, gets the job done. So we always see my dad's finished sketches on the wall over there, so anybody working in the shop can look up, see that, kind of understand the direction we're going, and work around that. But all the specifics are laid out over here on these artboards. Now these are always here, and they show the specific areas of the car that need adjustments, right? So you can see he did some sketches of that rear tire cover, which right there you can see. This has had a ton of work done on it. Dad essentially cut out this whole thing, reshaped it, lowered it a good, I want to say 3 to 4 inches, because originally this tire cover was coming up like this off the trunk lid. And when it had the roof still on it, it looked pretty regal and natural and everything fit. But once the roof was removed, we realized that this spare tire cover was just sticking off the back and kind of messing with the overall lines of the car and the silhouette. So Dad went ahead and chopped it down. And all of the details for that are listed here in these sketches. So you can see he's got his notes there and showing the before and after image. It's a little hard to tell, but you can see it when you're close enough. You can see how he wanted the lines to work around bringing that down. And then above that, you can see how he wanted the fenders done. So all that line work is there. It's a very shrunken sketch of the car, but you can see the details of the front and rear fenders and how exactly he wanted those laid out. And then he's got some notes on the rear bumper here, the headlights being reshaped, which he did himself, and some of the exhaust manifolds there as well. And then currently we're still figuring out the interior, so I went ahead and printed out a bunch of reference photos for him so you can come over and look at this artboard and get an idea of how he wants to approach a new interior for this car, because now it has no roof and it will be permanently convertible. So we're gonna have to work around that as well, think about what kind of materials we can use. I believe this car is going to spend the majority of its life in Arizona, so luckily it won't rain too much, but it's something to keep in mind as we move forward. Now the most exciting room at Foose Design, my favorite room, my nerd office. We love it in here. It's got it all. These are all of the Post-it notes I have laid out from the many phone calls I get back here from all walks of life. The ones that I think are important and worth coming back to, I go ahead and stick on my computer. Obviously, there's a lot of things I want to get around to. I've got a 3-monitor setup over here with the Wacom tablet, so if I'm working on like Photoshop images or things like that, I can use my Wacom pencil and work with it, physically instead of just relying on a mouse, which is really nice. Over here is our very high quality scanner. As you can probably imagine, my dad churns out a lot of artwork, and these are where they all get scanned. Looks like we have one of Camillo's stencils here for the Mustang that Steve is painting in the spray booth over there. And then all the artwork is currently piled on top of my cutting board. We need to find room for all of this, but there are so many treasures in here. You could look all day long. So many concept sketches and cool ideas coming from my dad. So in an effort to sort of keep them safe as I can, I've left them here for now until we can find a safer home for them over in the filing cabinets. But I scan so many things every day that it eventually piles up like this. And then right next to that, we have our 44-inch printer, which we use to print up whether it's posters or reference photos for Chip, because he loves working with physical reference photos versus digital. So I print a ton of things with this every day. It's very useful, prints in scale, and it also works really well for mocking up graphics onto a custom paint job that we're working on, like the Mustang. So I printed out a bunch of those graphics in scale off of this guy, and then we were able to cut them out, put them on the car, and see exactly how it was going to look when it was done. Then over here, this is my good friend, the GraphTech plot cutter. This is how we cut out all of our spray masks for the custom paint jobs we've been doing lately. So all the Mac Tool logos on Doug Coletta's helmet, all the wave graphics on the Mustang, all that's cut out here. It's got a nice, really wide 64-inch cutting board here. So we're not really limited by size with this thing, and It works incredibly well. Adjusting the blade can be a bit of a learning curve. A lot of spray mask has fallen victim to getting completely cut through on this thing, but we live and we learn. So she's very good to us, and we're very good to her. So that brings us to the final stop of the shop tour, the showroom. Now I bet you're wondering, this is the showroom, so why are there two unfinished projects sitting here? Well, this is the chassis that goes to that badass 62 Corvette project we have going on over in the fab side that we were looking at earlier. And over here, well, this one's really interesting because this originally started as a client build here at Foose, and the client decided that he was going to take this build to another shop, from my understanding, and it eventually found its way back here, and it needed a few things changed, improved on, etc. My father ended up buying the project off of the client, and now my dad is seeing this as his opportunity to build sort of the Overlord truck in his image, because if you recall, the Overlord was mostly fronted by my grandfather and the A-Team and had no involvement with my dad in the build. So he wanted to have involvement with a very similar build. So now we have this incredible metal work done on this body. It's been years of fabrication, and it's pretty darn close to the Overlord in its current state. It's not finished, obviously. There's a few gap issues here and there, like on the hood. You've got this snaggletooth right here. That's got to be fixed. But for the most part, the hard work has been done already. And from here, it's just finishing the car up, really. But for now, it's a really cool art piece that just sits here and greets all the tour guests that come by and accompanies them as they go through all of our wonderful merchandise. Like these hoodies, these long sleeve shirts that I love so much. We've got great merch, folks. Run on down to foosedesign.com. Pick yourself up some of this heat. I mean, come on. Whose life wouldn't be complete without this beer stein? Come on now. We got shot glasses. We got decals for your cars, for your iPads, your phones cases, whatever. We got beanies. And the best thing are t-shirts, which I may or may not have had a hand in designing some of these. But if you get lucky, if you're down here for a tour one day, you might just find one of our older shirts that are in very limited quantity now because we don't make them anymore. But we've still got some of the classics sitting around that we occasionally like to pull out of the archives and put here on the racks in our display room. And you won't find those online. So if you want a shirt like that, you're gonna have to come on down here and maybe ask for me, and I'll dig something out of the archive for you. What's this one? Oh, this is a current one, but pretty clean, pretty nice, pretty good stuff. We got hoodies as well. And of course, no Foose collection would be complete without the essential baseball cap. Everybody needs one. Everybody's got to have one. And the license plates as well for your temporary project cars, or when you're testing them out on the street before they're, you know, registered or whatever. So do you really need that? Okay. So that brings us to the end of our tour. If you're interested in seeing any of this in person, I recommend coming on down any Monday through Thursday at noon. We have shop tours every day, and it's totally free. So we hope to see you then. And until next time, I've been Brock. Thanks for stopping by.